Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. If you're new here, my name is Elena and I'm the homeschooling mama to 3 kiddos. And here on the channel, we talk about everything from homeschooling to homemaking. Today, we're going to cover a little bit of everything because we're talking about our goals coming forward for the new month. So every month I like to sit down with y'all and kind of go over how last month went and what I'm looking forward to setting up. My intentions or my goals, new rhythms, resets, if you will. So I am going to tackle this mess at some point behind me, but not today. The first thing that I like to do when I kind of reset my month or look over what I want the next month to look like is go backwards first. So I look at the past month and I see what my goals were for that month and how they worked out for me. If there's anything that I need to carry over or anything I want to scratch off in the next month going forward. I generally set some goals or intentions in some major areas of my life: faith, finances, family, and during the school year, I also do homeschool. Last month that we ended up putting goals out for faith, financial, homeschool, and health. Those were my main kind of topics that I was looking at. So let's take a look. I always like to start with faith, or at least I think I do. That's kind of where my foundation is. And so for faith, what I wanted to do was just kind of show up for myself and show up and growing closer to Christ. I just wanted to be getting up and getting intentional about being in the Word. April was a little bit tougher. It felt like March to me was just like the longest month in the world, maybe because it had 5 full weeks, or felt like it did. But it was just a long, so when I got to April, I didn't go in very strongly. So it started a little slow, but towards the end of the month, I was able to find a little bit more of a rhythm and start getting back into a better rhythm for myself. April's weather was all over the place. I don't know if it was like that for you. Comment down below with some weather emojis if that's how your April felt. One day it was like gorgeous and you knew spring was on the cusp of coming, and then the next day it was snowing. I just didn't know what to do with it. It was crazy and all over the place, and I kind of felt like that's how my goals were. They were crazy and all over the place. So like I said, towards the end of the month, I was able to get a little bit into a rhythm and just kind of find my way, and I want to continue and carry that on in the month of May. Another thing that I want to be carrying on in the month of May is picking up a nonfiction book, particularly from this shelf that's kind of half hidden here. It's got stuff all over the place, but I have shown this shelf in another video, and it is a lot of my nonfiction Christian faith type books, and I have not read a lot of these books that are on that shelf, and so I wanted to be sure that I was doing that this year. I did finish one. I will link to that video if you want to see where I mentioned finishing it up and some thoughts on it, if you'd like to check that out. This month, what I've already started reading is Uninvited by Lisa Tierkhurst. This is living loved when you feel less than, left out, and lonely. And I have picked this book up, honestly, a couple of times and not finished it. And so I picked it up off the shelf. I was just looking on the shelf for my next read, and I picked it up and I was like, you know, this is the time. I'm going to finish it this time around. And so I'm not very far into it just yet, but so far it's been pretty good. I'm mostly rereading. I started it over. So like I said, I have picked it up and started it before, and I did have a bookmark in there, but I went back and just started over from the beginning, and so it's been pretty cool to see what I have already highlighted and underlined in the little bit of notes that I had started taking, and I've added to that. And so I'm going to be reading this. That is the plan for the month, to read this and just continue on with the rhythm of getting up and intentionally seeking out the Lord and His Word. The other thing that we had set for the month of April that we will be carrying into May is just continuing to connect at our local church. We were blessed and found a local church, and we are just trying it out and seeing if this is going to be the church home that God has for us. Unfortunately, in April, we did not get to attend very often because my kids were passing around this weird cough thing. Thankfully, it was just a cough, but it was taking like a week to get better, and then they would pass it on like a week later. So instead of them all getting it all at once, it just like continued on for almost the whole month. So we weren't able to attend as often as we wanted to, but we are looking forward to, God willing, being able to return. So as a homeschooling mama, during the year especially, I like to set out some homeschool goals. And April's goals was to start thinking about next year's curriculum and to have a high school meeting with my son. I'll tell you right now, the high school meeting did not happen. So that is going on the May goals because I need to make it happen. Like I said, April is just kind of all over the place for us. But what I do is I like to sit down with my son. He is in high school now, and we sit down and kind of talk over our whole year. So subjects that worked out, what we liked about them, what he didn't like about them, and then we will talk about what is coming up in the next couple of years for him and what that means going forward into the next year. So it's very much the counselor appointment that you would have if you went to a traditional brick and mortar school, where you would sit down with your high school counselor, look at your 4-year plan and plan out your classes and see where you are with that. And so that's kind of what we're going to do with our homeschool meeting. I'm going to sit down with him and just talk about it. We are looking at maybe switching up some of our curriculum. I will have a video out, or I plan on making a video for each of my children's grade levels again this year, and share with you which curriculum we eventually pick out for them and plan on using. Things can switch up, so I do have a couple of those videos. If you'd like to see those on the channel, check around. I have a homeschool playlist and it's probably on there. But for this last year, just to recap, we were teaching kinder and first, like a hybrid for my special needs son, and then my daughter was in the 3rd grade, and so we went over 3rd grade curriculum, and then we went over starting high school and 9th grade and 9th grade curriculum. And the 9th grade one has an update video to it as well. So there's a whole list of things you can watch after that if you'd like to. But that is one of the goals that we need to do, is we need to sit down and have this homeschool curriculum meeting and just kind of figure out where we're at and what we want to do moving forward. And that's kind of overall for all my children. I need to start looking at, I've already started a little bit, but I've not finalized anything, but I've already started kind of looking at some of the curriculum that we're going to be using for next year for them, what worked, what didn't work this year. And like I said, what I really love about homeschooling is the fluidity of it, that we can switch it up and we have that freedom to say this isn't working and we need to switch it up to something else. And with that, it can get kind of costly, especially if you jump from curriculum to curriculum, but there are a lot of inexpensive choices out there that you could also try out and venture. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. I try to look for deals on our curriculum when we can, or buy used, that sort of thing. So that is all that I'm setting up for homeschool this year. Along with this kind of spring clean bug that's hit me, though, I am going to be rearranging some of the areas. I thought about waiting until the new year, until the new homeschool year, because I typically refresh the rooms or the spaces when we start our homeschool year, but I just want to do it now. I just want to rearrange the furniture and tidy up and make it a fresh and new. So hopefully that will be a good push for us to finish the year strong. Now for our financial goals, I flopped fabulously. I did not do well at all with our financial goals. I just wanted to track more. I wanted to be making sure that I was tracking all of our spending more. And then I wanted to make sure, especially our grocery budget was kind of as near as I could get to what our budget is. I didn't do it. We had a huge blessing in that my husband was able to take a couple of extra days off of work this month, and we just fully embraced that for the month of April. So while it was very good for our souls and very good for our mental health, it was a little bit tougher on the finances, because with that, you kind of go into vacation mode, or I do anyways. Having my husband home is so great, but it does kind of put us in vacation mode, and we tended to want to do treats more often, or kind of switch up the meal plan. He was grilling for us, which was fabulous. And so, just that kind of stuff. And like I said, it wasn't fantastic for the budget, but it was so needed and so well for our mental health, and for our little family. So I am not too mad about it. But going forward, I do want to kind of rein it in and take a look. And I am playing with the idea of a low spend or no spend month. I probably said that backwards. No spend to low spend. Because having a completely no spend month is not it's too restrictive, I think, for me. I think that once I say no spend, and what I mean by no spend is no frivolous, no extra spending. As soon as I say that I'm not going to spend on any extras, it's going to make me want to do all the extras. So going into May, I think it'll be more of a low spend type thing. That way I can give myself a little bit of leeway in case we do want to go eat out once, or we want to, I don't know, buy a treat for the kids or something like that. For the month of May coming up, it is Mother's Day, but I have already purchased my Mother's Day gift for my mom. So I have that taken care of, thankfully. And I just, going forward, I think that I can do a low spend so that I can stick to our grocery budget and kind of see where we're at. I know with rising prices everywhere and just the uncertainty that life seems to bring, it can be really hard to rein that in. But even more so, I think that's why I should be a good servant of our finances. And I'm finding that for the month of April, that kind of ran away from me. So going forward in May, I'm hoping that I can get back to keeping a closer eye on our budget and our spending and seeing where all that is going. I also want to get back stronger into my meal prep or meal plan game. So for April, I did set up a April meal plan, but like I said, we didn't really stick to it because I had some special days with the hubby home, and so we didn't stick as closely to it, but that's okay. So for May, I would like to sit down, go through the inventory of what we have in our freezers and our pantries, and then set up a meal plan that way for the month. If you'd like to see that, I do have a video also that you can check out on kind of how I go about making a monthly meal plan. And then the meal plan kind of brings me into, it's kind of a good segue into my fitness goals. I will go into this a little bit further in a separate video because it's a little bit more than it entails, but I'll give you a brief rundown. I'm going to be meal prepping for myself a little bit more throughout the month. I started at the end of April doing a little bit of meal prep for me because I'm going to get serious about getting into a cutting series, which just means a calorie deficit, lower intake. Now, I have, if you've been on this channel, you know off and on I do count my macros, and I've been on some 90-day journeys. I find that 90 days is a good time frame for me for my fitness goals to kind of wrap my mind around it. But this last 90-day one was a little bit of a roller coaster. I just kind of, I think I mentally needed a break. And so what I found though was that I just couldn't break through the last, plateau, platypus? I don't know, the last little bit of weight that I wanted to move. So I'm going to give it this final push and just kind of give it my all. And with that, I'm going to be sure that I'm prepping my meals and tracking the macros daily. So what I was doing was tracking Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday I was getting really lenient and just basically undoing all my work from the week. So I was making slight progress, but not as much progress as I think I could make if I had been tracking all 7 days. One of my goals for April though, for my fitness that I did hit, was getting back on track. Like I said, the beginning of April was rough. I was not in really a good headspace. I think it was just really hard for me, and so I had to battle that a little bit. But I am glad to say that I think the extra days off with hubby totally helped that as well, and I was able to just spend some time with him and talk. And having that time with your spouse, my husband really is my best friend. I know it's cheesy to say, but he really is. And so having that time to connect again and just talk sometimes and just hang out with the kids and laugh was so needed. And so I think that I'm going to give myself grace on that portion of my fitness and my health journey, because that was definitely part of it. I needed that health aspect, that mental health, to reconnect with my family and just enjoy being with them and remember what that joy feels like. I hope that this makes sense. Comment down below and let me know if you can relate at all or understand what I mean by really connecting and understanding the joy of being with them. I think sometimes in the hustle and bustle, and even sometimes in the really good things that we do, like setting goals, we can become so laser focused on it that we forget the joy in the journey. And so it was really good for me to find that again. So I did, towards the end of the month especially, start getting back to my working out, and that is when I started meal prepping a little bit more for me. My anxiety in March, and like I said, the beginning of April, was really high, and so for my April goals on it was to create a kind of plan for eating for my high anxiety days, and I was able to work through. I wanted to have some easy options for the high anxiety days when I didn't really feel like eating, or I didn't feel like just fueling myself. And that's kind of what switched the thought for me, is that I switched over from having to feel like it needed to be a big elaborate meal, or it needed to be something that I truly enjoyed. I just told myself it just needs to fuel your body. You just get through this, and you will get through this next moment, and that's what we did. And so I ended up making some smoothies. I did make a couple of batches of soup, and then had those ready for me as well, because there was a lot of vitamins and good stuff. So for the month of May, I'm going to continue working out 4 times a week. That is my goal. If I get to 5, it's kind of a bonus day for me, but I like to continue working out 4 times. And then I'm going to be meal prepping for myself and tracking those macros. And honestly, that's all that I'm gonna set up for this month. That's all. That's enough. That's enough goals to set out. I do like to set them up and break it down a little bit so that I can have a clearer picture of it. And then I do walk you through, if you haven't seen any of the videos, maybe you want to check one of those out, but how I track and kind of keep myself on track with the goals in my planner. And so that is what we will do for this month. I'm going to be reading. I'll show you how I go ahead and track and kind of make sure that I'm hitting my goals in my planner here. If that video has already gone up, I will link that for you up there so you can check that out as well if you haven't already. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you spending your time and spending it with me. If you liked this video, would you please be sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know down below what your goals are so that I can be cheering you on as well. And if no one's told you today, you are so appreciated and so loved. Thanks again for watching.